handstand can be classified as a closed skill, as the individual initiates the start and the end of the movement. As a handstand requires large muscle groups for execution, it can also be classified as a gross motor skill. It can further be broken down into a discrete skill, as it has a specific beginning and end from the moment you kick up onto your hands until you resume a standing position. To successfully perform a handstand, the essential components that should be considered are an individual's balance, core stability, coordination, and isometric contractions. For a beginner, we can refer to a handstand as a house of cards, meaning that for optimal balance and strength, each layer has to be stacked evenly on top of the other. The more stacked your muscles and joints are, the more stable the handstand will be. As you can see here in the diagram, each layer or joint of the person's body is stacked upon the next. So if we work our way up the body, we can see that the shoulders are in line with the hips, and from there the knees are directly in line with the hips also, and the toes pointed on the top. There are 3 clear stages of learning: cognitive, associative, and autonomous. Beginners of a new skill are considered to be in the cognitive phase, which is where they gather information. They then move into the associative phase, which is where they are able to put the actions together. To be considered an expert of not only a handstand but any skill, which is also known as the autonomous stage of learning, is a very long process and requires a long period of time to do so. For our beginner, the 4-week training program was simply not enough time at practicing the skill to be on an expert level. Therefore, we would expect Michael would be in the cognitive stage of learning, and maybe, depending on the type of learner he is, he may make it into the associative stage of learning towards the end of the program. To measure the learner's progress of performance, we would use both qualitative and quantitative data. Qualitative measures involve looking at the accuracy and form of how well the handstand was executed by using the stacking technique that was mentioned earlier. The other way performance was measured was simply by timing how long the learner was able to hold the handstand once their feet had left the ground and they were in an upright position on both hands. In terms of goal setting and practice tools, our training program was separated into weekly short-term goals in order for Michael to achieve the long-term goal of holding a handstand. In weeks 1 and 2, it was all about preparation, strength, and flexibility. In order to produce a successful handstand shape, repetition is required. This skill has the potential to put increasing amounts of strain throughout the wrists and shoulders. In order to develop the strength and flexibility required to ensure your body is capable of resisting this strain, here are a series of exercises that you should perform to prepare the muscles and joints for this skill. It is also important to strengthen the core muscles, as they play a vital role in the stability of the hold. In order for the body to be able to support itself and not cave in, which we like to call a banana back, the ability to contract the abdominals correctly is imperative. Week 3 is where the learner progressed to starting to put it all together. This involved kicking up and down to get a feel for being in control of their own handstand. To do this, we used a wall as a safety net to ensure the learner did not hurt themselves. General key points that we gave Michael were keeping your elbows locked, attempting to place your shoulders into your ears, spreading your fingers, placing your hands shoulder width apart, keeping your legs straight, and finally pointing your toes. A demonstration of the skill should be given by the teacher for the learner to view. Then, specific verbal cues should be given for the learner to think about before they put them into practice. By keeping the cues short, sweet, and specific is essential for new learners in the cognitive stage, as too much information at once will have a negative effect on their performance. Thus, they can focus on the skill and the main key points they have to remember. As week 4 commences and the learner feels comfortable enough to attempt a freestanding handstand, it is then to work on increasing the duration of the hold. This is where a partner may come in handy, as they can provide spotting as you perform the skill. The partner will not hold you in the skill, rather they just ensure you will not exit the skill until the time is up. Ideally, when performing freestanding timed holds, it would be best to film the performance of the skill for later analysis. If it is deemed an incorrect shape, it is then recommended that prior exercises are completed again to ensure a proper shape. The shape of a handstand must always come before any duration of the skill is achieved. This is to prevent any overuse or postural injuries. Feedback comes in 2 ways: task intrinsic feedback or augmented feedback. Augmented feedback is performance-related information added to or enhancing task intrinsic feedback. The type of feedback and the timing of the feedback is another essential part of an individual's learning process. Feedback that is given during the execution of a skill is called concurrent feedback, and the feedback given after the skill is performed is called terminal feedback. Augmented feedback helps to not only inform success, but also allows the performer to adjust their execution in real time. After some time, the augmented feedback should be phased out of the program so that the learner does not become dependent on the feedback. As a handstand is a complex skill, we tend to break it down into phases whilst learning. This is known as part practice. Although, once the different parts of the skill have been individually learnt, whole practice would also be beneficial to the learner, as the skill becomes more natural as the program progresses. Therefore, it is easier to practice as a whole. We recommend that each session only goes for a maximum of half an hour to 45 minutes. Throughout the week, we also recommend a higher frequency of training sessions for shorter durations.